Mountain Boy, a story by Anna Catherine Josephs and illustrated by Bill Ersland. Tommy Zachary was only 14 years old, but already he was a real mountain man. His father had been long sick, so Tommy, my great-grandfather, quit school in the 5th grade at age 10 to become the man of the family. He knew how to cook, chop wood, track wild animals, and most important, how to find his way through the dense mountain woods with only the sun and the stars as his compass. But he dreamed of going back to school someday. Tommy lived with his bedridden father, his mother, and his baby sister in a small log cabin in the mountains of North Carolina. His other 5 sisters were married, and his 7 brothers were off fighting in the Civil War, some on the southern side and some on the northern side. It was during the coldest part of the winter that a small band of Union soldiers came upon the Zachary cabin, well hidden in the woods in Cashier's Valley. When the soldiers knocked, it was young Tommy who opened the door. They looked ragged and dirty, but Tommy was not afraid. He and his parents listened as the soldiers told about their escape from a Confederate prison in Columbia, South Carolina, on the night of November 10th, 1864. The prison was so crowded and infested with rats that the soldiers were willing to risk capture and death rather than stay in such an awful place. After many hours of secret work, they were able to escape through a tunnel dug with their hands. Their goal was to get to the Union lines in Knoxville, Tennessee, by crossing the Blue Ridge Mountains. The men traveled only at night and never by public roads. All they had to eat were sweet potatoes, which they got from the fields, or cornbread and sorghum syrup that they got from the black people along the way. These people were always their friends and helped them because they knew the escaping men were fighting for their freedom too. Sometimes the men were chased by Confederate soldiers, but they always managed to escape. Once the Union soldiers raided a rebel wagon train loaded with hams, bacon, honey, chestnuts, clothes, and blankets. They shared these with the people who were willing to give them a place to hide during the day. It was slow traveling because the enemy was everywhere. The men were often very discouraged, but they were relieved when they finally reached the mountains of North Carolina. They knew the mountaineers were often Union sympathizers and could be counted on to help them out. Tommy Zachary's father was well known as a supporter of the Union cause. The soldiers needed a guide who knew the mountains, who could lead them on the back trails and around the treacherous laurel shrub hells. When they told Tommy what they wanted, Tommy begged his father to let him go. The boy was needed at home, but his father wanted to help the Union men. He knew Tommy was a brave and capable boy, so he finally agreed to let Tommy be their guide. His mother packed some warm clothes and food and kissed him goodbye. It was a journey that Tommy would never forget. When he and a small band of men set out, the trees were covered with ice, the ground was slippery, and there was about 2 feet of snow on the ground. Along the way, they had to hide in caves for days and days, hoping the Southerners' bloodhounds wouldn't find them. They were almost freezing, but they could not have campfires because the enemy would see the smoke and the firelight and know where to find them. When Tommy and the men could not find caves, they had to build huts out of chestnut bark chinked with moss. The wind that blew through the cracks in the huts made an eerie sound. Their food was running out, but they couldn't shoot a gun to kill squirrels or rabbits because the enemy would hear the gunshots. The soldiers longed to reach Tennessee, but they were so cold and tired and hungry that only the memory of their horrible days in prison kept them from turning back in search of food and warmth. Tommy was terribly homesick, but he knew if he left the men now, the soldiers would be completely lost and would never see their homes again. He had to keep his promise. Another thing kept him from turning back. The men had promised to pay his way to college if they ever reached the Union lines. It took Tommy and the soldiers 52 days to reach Sweetwater, Tennessee, about 120 miles from Cashier's Valley and Tommy's home. The band of ragged soldiers said goodbye to Tommy, and he left at once for home. He made the trip back with no trouble because the Confederate soldiers hadn't found out about his secret journey. When he got back home, his mother and father were very happy to see him. Tommy got letters from Captain Bassett, the leader of the prisoners, for many years. When Bassett died, his wife continued to write to the boy, who had brought her husband back during the war, but no money ever came. Even though he never got the education he dreamed about, Tommy wasn't mad, but he often thought of the things he would have learned in college. My great-grandfather Tommy remained an adventurous man, homesteading in Kansas with his own family, and later riding over the Blue Ridge Mountains, planting trees like Johnny Appleseed. Many of his trees still grow all over North Carolina, especially around the old home place in the mountains, where the Zachary family still takes care of them and where I love to visit.